How would you compare their capabilities today to what we saw in the 12-day war? And also, would Russia and China be sitting idle again like they did previously?
Well, I'll answer the last part first. I doubt that either China or Russia would be actively involved because it would be kind of a losing proposition for them. But I do think they have incentive to do everything they can to help Iran not fall. And I think that they would provide indirect support, possibly intelligence support. I can certainly imagine them doing that, or with some weapons and ammunition. There's been a lot of things that have flown in from Russia. We don't know for sure what was in those. I can certainly imagine that they get some kind of support. I mean, why wouldn't they? We do that on a daily basis against Russia and Ukraine. So should they not return the favor here? Because I don't think either superpower has any incentive to just stand passively by and literally allow another of their clients, say it's a central member of BRICS, be taken down. So I think that they would do some indirect things and probably diplomatic things as well. But I don't think that they would get physically involved because the cost would be too high for them. But then, and I'm sorry, what was your other?
The element the first one was how prepared is Iran? Element of surprise, and how prepared is Iran today militarily compared to the 12-day war?
Yeah, compared to the last time, it's substantially more. In fact, there's lots of reports that in the aftermath of that there was a lot of purges within Iran. They were looking for all these spies because apparently there was quite a few insiders that helped knock out some of the air defenses, et cetera, taking down some of the radars and doing other things that would limit their ability to respond immediately. They got a lot of that fixed after about the first 12 hours, and things changed after that. And certainly their offensive capability only increased in percentages of success over the time because they figured out what was going on, some of the cyber attacks, and they took mitigation against those. Now then, the surprise that you had then is gone because they are actively looking for that. So you're not going to get, I doubt, unless Mossad is even better than I think they are. I doubt you're going to get that where prior to an attack that you're going to get another one of those rounds from the inside where they take things out with drones and whatever else, like the spiderweb attack in Ukraine, et cetera. So I think that Iran is now, as you said a second ago, they read the tea leaves. They see the writing on the wall. They are focused very strongly. So they're looking for that kind of thing. They now know, because of that history, what the attack might look like and how to mitigate some of the effects of it. And they also are prepared for how to respond more quickly, I think, offensively. So I think they are far more capable right now. And from all we can understand after the first attack, much of their missile production capacity had already foreseen this possibility of this war. So it was already in protected areas, and it continued to produce even during that time. And now all the months since June of last year, we can imagine that their production capacity has probably continued on and probably accelerated to the extent that they could get the resources and the supplies, et cetera. I think that their missile capacity of the kind that succeeds will be higher. So I think the pain on Israel will be higher. Their ability to strike us if they pull off the restraints will be substantial, and this could be really, really ugly. If President Trump thinks this is going to be like June, where we can just go in there and do whatever we want, or like Venezuela, which I worry that, catastrophic success, he may get the idea that what he says in public, which he said at Davos earlier today, we're always right and everything we do succeeds. If you believe that and you ignore some of these fundamentals we just talked about here, you can make a catastrophic decision. And I really hope that doesn't happen.
You mentioned Maduro. Is it possible that we see a more limited strike like we saw in Venezuela, or more limited operation to capture the leader, for example? It sounds very difficult, if not impossible, in Iran, considering their military capabilities and how prepared they are. But we know that there's reports that Delta Force and Navy SEALs are in the region. Is that even a possibility?
I mean, anything's a possibility. Some people can think that, well, we did it there and we can do it here, and that's part of our skill set that we train for on a regular basis, which is why they used Delta Force the first time. But I think that the chances of success are virtually zero. And I certainly hope they don't attempt to do that for the very reason you just mentioned, is that it's just been done. You've already tried, you have assassinated, several other leaders already. The Hezbollah leader I mentioned, Nasrallah. So there is history recently too. So they know that that's a legitimate possibility. And you had Jack Keane yesterday saying, yeah, we're going to go after political targets. I don't know that that would mean anything besides the Ayatollah or the president. So I think that they're going to be prepared for that. And they definitely have the defenses much better than Maduro had. Maduro was foolish. I mean, he was out dancing in the streets, out in the open in the days ahead of this, mocking President Trump. You don't see the Ayatollah doing that. He's very cognizant of the threat and the reality, and I'm sure that they're taking much more precautions than Maduro did.
He's also too old for this shit. He can't be bothered playing these games like Maduro. The guy's 80
Right,
something years old. He's been through
right.
so much. Um, what happens in the region? What happens to Lebanon, to Hezbollah? What happens to the Houthis? Obviously, Hamas, they don't have much capacity left. Do you worry that this could spill over? We see what the clashes that are happening in Syria, or is Iran and their proxies just too weak for this to become a regional issue?
Well, they would depend on how successful Iran was in their retaliation. If they start hitting Israel and they start getting weakened, and I mean genuinely hurt, not just some pain points, but some punishing losses to where their offensive capacity is diminished, then you might get some people rising up in the Houthis or in Hezbollah, because I mean most of those guys still exist. They've gone to ground for very rational and self-preservation reasons. But if they saw that suddenly Israel was starting to really be hurt and they couldn't stop Iranian attacks and missiles, I can see the possibility that they could stand up there. You also can't just eliminate the possibility that Turkey could be sitting there going, here's an opportunity here, because there's a lot of enmity between Turkey and Israel already, and that has been growing in recent months. I don't know that they would be ready to take any action right now, because they have the possibility of nuclear weapons all over the place. That's actually something that I worry about is if Iranian has catastrophic success, as some call it, and they really do start hurting Israel, that you have the risk that Israel could be saying, okay, well, I'm going to correct this situation with a nuclear weapon. That's, to me, a bigger threat than what you're talking about, a regional war against Israel, is that Iran is too successful. And I think that they're aware of that risk, and I think that that could mitigate what they do if they start having success. But I think that they will go up to that point. I don't think that they'll back down this time.
Yeah, I think there's people betting on whether Israel will use nuclear weapons this year on Polymarket. Not sure how that's even a discussion. It's pretty crazy. But also, for a lot of people just don't understand how massive Iran is, not just militarily. Over 90, I think 93 million people. It's bigger than Iraq. It's about a quarter of the size of the US. It's a massive, massive country. Now, I did speak to an analyst a few days ago, and I want to get your thoughts on this. He made the point that he believes Iran, if therefore the regime falls, it's not going to be too bloody to have a replacement government, as we've seen in Iraq, Libya. It's because in Iraq and Libya, even in Syria, they're melting pots with many hands in the pot. Many proxies deciding who should lead the country, and that led to a split within the nation. And he believes that Iran, being one of those, hands in all these different pots, just like Israel is, just like the US is, Iran will not have a lot less risk of civil war. Is that a risk that we could see civil war in the region? Or do you think a regime change in the country could go better than we saw in Libya, in Iraq, and in Syria?
I don't see any positive outcome. It would be just the height of wishful thinking that you could do that. And I do think it is possible that the U.S. and Israel together could have a decapitation where they take out the Ayatollah. And even though Iran has a continuity of government plan and they have somebody else designated, whether that person would have, number one, they would immediately become a target themselves. But it's also unclear that whoever that person would be, will they have the same kind of support that the current Ayatollah has? And so it is possible that you could get a regime disruption by taking out the leadership, and that there could be a battle inside for it. So, I mean, you saw the 1979 revolution itself right there. So there's certainly precedents inside of Iran that different groups will fight when it comes to it. And I think it's a roll of the dice to hope that doesn't happen again. Maybe this fellow you talked to is right, but I rather think that
I doubt it.